Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to call this meeting to order at 8:30 a.m. If we can have of the Administration Projects Committee, if we could give our attention to the short video.
Due to COVID-19, this meeting will be conducted as a Zoom meeting pursuant to the provisions of Assembly Bill 361, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. This meeting is being live streamed on the CCTA website. The chair will call upon members, staff, and other speakers by name. Please speak clearly and state your name before giving comments or remarks. Persons participating via Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers. Members participating by Zoom wishing to speak should physically raise their hand and unmute their mic when called upon. Members should mute their mics when done speaking. Citizens participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the Raise Hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the chair or staff will call upon them at the appropriate time. Citizens will have 3 minutes to speak. After 3 minutes, staff will lower their hand and mute their mic. Participants via phone will be called upon by the last 4 digits of their phone number. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice for public comment guidelines are printed on the meeting agenda. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they should raise their hand and the chair will call upon them at the appropriate time. All written correspondence received after that and during the meeting will be entered into the record. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
All right, thank you. Next, we have public comments. Just as a reminder, Contra Costa Transportation Authority does not condone hate speech of any form. We continually strive to make life better for all members of our community and create an atmosphere where everyone feels a sense of safety and belonging. We ask that anyone who wishes to speak does so with civility, respect, and kindness to others. I'm sorry, we got to call we got to take the roll.
Okay, Commissioner Arnrich?
Here.
Commissioner Fedeli?
Here.
Commissioner Nowak? I know you're here. Vice Chair Sauce?
Here.
And Chair Thorpe?
Here.
We have all of our members present.
All right, now we can go to public comments. Are there any general public comments?
I see no hands raised.
All right, we'll go to our next item is consent calendar, item 3. Are there any changes or anything that needs to be pulled from the consent calendar?
I'd just like to make a comment just on the sales tax item, just to make sure we're all aware that, Contra Costa County is doing well. In the second quarter, we're down 0.7%, but the state's almost 3%. Just something for all of us to note as we look over the next 2 quarters. Just anticipating, this new formula, and hopefully our estimate is still underneath, given that sales tax is projected to continue to drop for the next 2 quarters. And with that, I would move the consent calendar.
All right, there's a motion by Commissioner Arnich, but before I ask for a second, are there any public comments?
I received no public comments.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Second by, was that Commissioner Fedeli?
That was Sauce.
Oh, Commissioner Sauce, thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Arnrich?
Aye.
Commissioner Fedeli?
Aye.
Commissioner Nowak?
Yes.
Vice Chair Sauce? Was a yes, right?
It was.
Okay, great, thank you. And Chair Thorpe?
Yes.
Excellent. The motion passes unanimously with all members present.
All right, thank you. Item 4A, legislative update. our Executive Director, Tim Hale, will give an update.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Thor. Appreciate the opportunity to provide the Administration Projects Committee with an update on what's happening both at the federal level and state level. We've invited both our state and federal advocates here to provide you an update. And so I will ask Gus maybe to start with the federal update. Looks like we've got a new speaker, so hopefully things are stabilizing a little bit.
The more things change, the more they stay the same around here. So not sure how stable, but we do have some stability, some forward movement this week. The U.S. Senate just approved I say small legislative package of 3 of the annual 12 annual appropriations bills. That package that they passed yesterday by a strong bipartisan margin in the 80s, the 100 senators supporting, did include the THUD appropriations bill, the transportation HUD bill. Now, while the top line of that was approximately $88 billion for the upcoming fiscal year 2024, which is more or less the level of last year's funding, in line with freezing government spending at the budget caps agreed to earlier this summer. There are a couple of modifications within the different grant programs and some agency levels within that bill. The House, on the other hand, does have some pretty steep cuts compared to last year's levels. And now that, as Tim said, we do have a speaker, Speaker Mike Johnson from Louisiana has replaced Kevin McCarthy as the Speaker of the House of Representatives. And then his second week, he has called up the Transportation HUD appropriations bill, should be hitting the floor today, maybe debating on into the night, the wee hours of the morning. But at that point, after presumable passage, the House will have passed about 8 of its 12 annual spending bills. So we are definitely hitting a pretty quick ramp back up into legislative activity here now that the speaker drama has been sorted out. Another bill they will be considering is the Interior, which includes CPA appropriations. This all is for future year FY24 appropriations. We're currently in a continuing resolution, simply maintaining last year's policy and funding levels. That will run out mid-November, the 17th of this month. So given how long and how much time and bandwidth was spent figuring out a new speaker, we could see there's a pretty good likelihood we see a stopgap, another continuing resolution into early calendar year 2024. That date is still to be determined. There's still, about 2.5 weeks before this current one runs out. But simply given how much time got spent sorting out a speaker and really a leader of the House, we are looking at a potential into January continuing resolution. That does have impacts on a possible sequester, just for everyone's radar. There's a percentage cut shaved off across the board, all government programs, if a continuing resolution is in effect on January 1st. It doesn't actually begin to be administered until April, so there is time for Congress to basically fix this, but do want to put on people's radar that looking at a January or calendar 2024, another extension could bring us a bit of a sequester into play just across the board. No rhyme or reason into strategically cutting programs that may need reforms or anything. But that's where things currently stand, and happy to take any questions on this.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions from, and if I can't see everybody, so feel free to speak up. All right, so no one's speaking up, so I'm assuming there are no questions. What's the percentage on the sequester?
So it's a bit up for debate. It's likely 8%. There is subject to some interpretation as to how much defense versus non-defense will be included in that. And that is, as I said, a part of the ongoing April of next year implementation. I'm definitely holding out hope and probably more bullish than some that it gets resolved. But just given where we are in the calendar year, it's definitely a factor that is, gonna wind up on the table here.
Got it. Thank you.
Is there any particular issue of interest in the bill today on the floor of the House to CCTA that we should care about? It's in the transportation bill, lots of things, right?
So, yes, sorry, I didn't get into the specifics. That is all the discretionary grants run
Right.
out of USDOT. Like I said, a lot of those programs do see some pretty steep cuts over last year's levels, given the fiscal austerity that the House Republicans demanded out of that, and that's across all their bills, not just transportation. But it does unlock a lot of the IIJA grant programs. It funds upcoming fiscal year, just general administration, NHTSA, and FMCSA programming as well.
But nothing that the new speaker has pointed to of concern that he wants to block or pull out or change.
No, we're still figuring out. He's a relatively new face to running things around here, and figuring out what exactly may be his areas of interest. I believe in the defense world, he's going to be big on defense, but he has not identified, and I have not seen any inkling that he will be a foe or friend, for the flip side of that, on specific transportation issues currently.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah, Chair Thor, maybe I can just chime in really quick. We are, we have been talking about and strategizing on what's going to happen this upcoming federal fiscal year, and starting to position CCTA, for certain discretionary grant programs. So to your point, Commissioner Fedeli, we've been keeping a real close eye on these appropriations to understand, what our opportunities are going to be. We are really laser focused on really three things. One is community benefit projects, whether those are going to be available and coming back. And we're talking about potential workforce development programs associated with Gomentum Station. So with that, and then the second piece is northbound express lanes and 684 interchange on the project level. So those two projects have tremendous amount of shortfall, about 100 million on northbound express lanes and about 200 million on 684. And so we are strategically looking at both state grants and federal grants. And then we are also focused on the upcoming National Highway Traffic Safety Administration AV STEP Safety Framework Program, which will play into Gomentum Station. So those are like our top kind of three things that we're really lasered in. So some of the discretionary programs that we're looking at, we did take a step back on MEGA this last cycle. So we are planning on going into MEGA next year, which is associated with the federal regional strategy for the Bay Area. So we are one of the selected projects for that. Although MTC will be looking to consider that potentially in the November, December board commission meetings about whether they're revisiting the list, basically. And so we are, we've been talking with Commissioner Nowak and Commissioner Glover, our MTC commissioners, about making sure that we stay on the list, and I'm confident that we will. And so, so there's a lot of plate here on the federal strategy side that we've been talking about. Next week, we're going to be sitting down with Gus and the TGA team to talk about our federal advocacy platform for next year that we'll be, bringing to the authority board probably in December.
That's very helpful. If I have time, I'll watch C-SPAN today.
All right. I guess now we'll turn to the state side.
Yeah, Mark, you want to start off, kick off things?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair Thorpe and commissioners. Pleased to be here today. I've got a fairly lean report because there's not much happened in the last month, but I've got a few things to relate that are probably have some level of importance. First off, I mentioned at the last meeting the two bills that we had followed throughout the year, AB6 and AB7, authored by Chair Friedman, and that she had been compelled to put the bills over to next year. She had also indicated she would hold stakeholder meetings, and thus far, she has not. And I think it's reflective of the situation where the new speaker may be developing new committees as well as new chairs. So I think nobody's being allowed to hold meetings until later in November, and she's not set those stakeholder meetings. If they get going again, I'll just remind you, AB6 would authorize CARB to do more emission reduction targets, as well as the Solutions for Congested Corridors program will be compelled to be more in line with climate goals that the state have imposed. AB7 would also do a similar thing. It would tell Caltrans, CalSTA, and CTC that the programs that they're in charge of will have to be more aligned with climate goals as they go forward in their guidelines. So it's a very important package of bills, and the uncertainty surrounding whether there will be stakeholder meetings is mounting a bit. The next item I want to talk about is, and it kind of relates, there's a lot of rumors floating around about potential changes in chairs, even though the speaker has made it clear he's not going to deal with committees, immediately. However, I think to Contra Costa's benefit, if one of these comes true, it'll be very positive. The rumor is that Assemblymember Wilson may be in line to be the transportation chair. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Again, the speaker has indicated he's not anxious to move forward. He wants to get his arms around the operation of the building of the assembly before he starts making changes. There are a couple of key CTC action items going on this month and continuing forward. Yesterday was the ITIP South hearing. So the ITIP is part of the State Transportation Improvement Program. The ITIP is the portion that goes to Caltrans. So out of the funding that's made available for the STIP program overall, a quarter of it goes to Caltrans. And so they had their hearing on what they're proposing to program in the South. That hearing was yesterday. The hearing for the North is next week on the 8th. And their agendas have complete lists of proposed projects that will be in line to receive additional funding to reflect any growth in costs, as well as what the new funding will be available to which project. So it's an important series of work groups, and it really is going to reflect, I think, a sea change in how the ITIP has been utilized by the state. In the past, it was really the only program that the state had to do new capacity or major improvements, particularly in a conventional highway system, not just freeways, but they could spend money on both. The shift in emphasis in this ITIP process that we're in the middle of is the new money that's been made available is going more for transit, capital, and rail programs. That's not to say everybody in the state won't benefit from this. It's just a shift in emphasis from what we've seen in the past. I think just as a longtime observer of transportation, the conventional highway system is going to be the one, I shouldn't use the word suffer. It will not have as much money available to it as it has in the past. So small communities, even major communities like San Pablo Dam Road would normally qualify for ITIP funding if there had been a project needed. So it's just going to be a change in values within the department and an emphasis on providing different kind of level of service. In addition, there is hearings underway on SB 1121 process. That was a bill that passed in 2022, and it required the CTC to develop a broad, ongoing needs assessment process for state and local transportation systems. Where we're leading up to now, there is a workshop this afternoon to go over the interim report that's due on Jan 1 of 2024 that would lead up to major opportunities for revisions or changes or upgrades, as the final report would be due in January 1 of 2025. And so I'm participating in the workshops. I was one of the sponsors of this needs assessment process, and it has an ongoing aspect in addition to doing this very first needs assessment, so we don't get lost like we did leading up to SB 1 and not know how much the needs are and have to scramble to try to put together a needs assessment process. This will be routine, and every 5 years they'll be required to update the needs assessment. And I think that'll make sure that the focus is on what the transportation needs are from a professional perspective, not just a once perspective. I will mention a little, Philip, of activity that may emerge. The cap and trade program was extended several years ago and would continue until the auction program will continue till 2030. So some folks have been thinking, well, do we wait closer to 2030 before we try to do another extension? There may be another factor that's going to push earlier activity on this, and that is the Secretary's Office, who administers the TIRCP program, the Transit and Intercity Rail program, had developed a very innovative approach where to make transformative modifications to the rail system. He did the Secretary's Office provided multi-year allocations using up money from several years of projected sources, and one of the sources is cap and trade revenues. With the 2030 coming extension, or the end of the 2030 the end of the extension that was authorized that gets complete in 2030. Some folks are looking at it and saying the Secretary's Office may not have enough opportunity, enough revenues to continue that robust allocation process unless it's extended sooner than later. So that may pop up this year. I want to put it on the table in case we have to talk about it in more depth later. And I'm not advocating one way or the other. I'm just trying to provide just direct information that this may be an issue that comes up. And finally, I enjoyed working this week with Executive Director Hale and your new staff person, Lindy. She's great. I'm really enjoying interacting with her. We were putting to the final touches on a final draft of the 2024 legislative program, and that will be an action item coming up. So I'll stop at that point and take questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions?
I see no hands raised.
Chair Thorpe, if I could just maybe chime in, have a few additions if you don't mind. So a couple things. So Mark's been really helpful in terms of setting up meetings in Sacramento relative to our Gomentum Station 2.0 efforts. So we met with the Undersecretary of Transportation last week, the Department of Finance, as well as Caltrans, and then we've also had meetings with Assemblymember Wilson and Senator Glazer, and so we're getting ready to set up another round of meetings with a few folks, and those meetings have been going very well. We've been getting a lot of support in terms of the direction we're going with the workforce development programs and the Gomentum Station 2.0 concept. So just wanted to report out on that. And then in terms of what Mark was mentioning relative to AB 6 and 7, because that turned into a 2-year bill, Caltrans has been really floating around a new policy called the Systems Investment Strategy, which really takes 6 and 7 and implement it in terms of how Caltrans will be reviewing and selecting and approving projects. And so we as staff, we've been developing a comment letter that we'll be submitting at the end of this week, tomorrow, relative to that. And just give you a real clear example of how this is really impacting our projects. You know, the 684 interchange has always been a very important project for CCTA. It's part of our voter approved expenditure plan. And, you know, because it doesn't have, you know, a bike lane component, it doesn't have, you know, electric vehicle charging component or hydrogen component, you know, a lot of these types of strategies, or even a transit component. And so it's a traditional, you know, operational improvement, safety improvement project, right? Like it's improving safety in those weave areas between all those little individual loop ramps, right? And so, and that project is going to be difficult to compete for some of these state programs for the project. And so we talked about that with Mark yesterday in terms of, you know, developing an advocacy strategy to go to the Hill and really advocate for the project, really emphasize safety and the improvements of safety in the corridor. But that's a real clear example of how these, you know, the way Caltrans is looking to invest dollars to support their climate goals and the climate action plan for transportation infrastructure called CAPTI. It's really being pushed down from the legislature, from the governor's office, and into the department. And so it's a real challenge to really deliver some of these real important, you know, capacity enhancing and operational projects that we have, you know, in our voter expenditure plan. So that just gives you a real clear example of how some of these new policies are impacting our programs.
All right, thank you. Any questions from commissioners?
I see no hands raised.
Okay, any public comments?
We've received no public comment.
Okay, so I believe this is just a presentation and an update, so no action is required here. So we will move on to our next agenda item, and that's the applications to the Citizens Advisory Committee. And so we'll get a report from Terry Ann Grover.
You're on mute.
You're on mute, Terry.
My apologies. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. We have 3 at-large CCTA board member appointed vacancies on the Citizens Advisory Committee that we are looking to fill this morning, and looking to the APC to provide nominations to the full board. We don't currently have a process for these types of appointments. The proposed process will be to conduct the interviews with each candidate via a breakout session with deliberations, follow-up questions, and nominations to be done in open session. The entire meeting will be publicly accessible, even through the breakout room process. However, we respectfully ask that the other candidates remain in open session during the other candidates' interviews. If anyone would like to attend the breakout sessions, it will be granted upon request. The 5 committee members will convene into a breakout room for the interviews. The clerk will allow the candidates into the breakout room one at a time. You will receive a pop-up on your screen to enter the breakout room. We have 5 individuals submit applications. Currently, we have 3 candidates interviewing for the position. They are Nazanin Shakaran, Nicholas Stark, and Sheena Patel. And I did see that they are all with us this morning. And then we do have Carlos Diaz, who was still interested but was not available to attend. And we have Thomas Ayers, who withdrew due to a conflict. Each candidate will be given up to 5 minutes to answer the 3 questions to be asked by the chair. When the candidate is done answering the 3 questions, you will select the leave room option, which is the red option in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. This will also provide another pop-up. You will select the leave breakout room. Do not click leave meeting, and this will allow you to come back into the open session. We will then invite the next candidate into the breakout room. Upon completion of all the interviews, the APC members will convene back into open session. Again, I want to reiterate that all the follow-up discussion, deliberations, questions, motions, and nominations must be done in open session. We are proposing this process because we do not have a process, because our admin code and bylaws are silent on the process. So we are proposing to codify this process, or a modification as future appointments will likely be back in person in an upcoming admin code amendment. I'll now hand it over to Christina, and she will open the breakout rooms so we can begin the interview process.
Before we open the breakout rooms, Commissioner Sauce, can I ask that you ask the questions? I'm on my phone, and so if I start moving screens around, I'm gonna get lost.
I'd be happy to, Mr. Chair, no problem.
Okay, I will now be opening the breakout room.
So it looks like the first person being interviewed is Nazanin Shakarian.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was on mute, moved. Somehow Nicholas Stark got added to that, so I moved him back into this room. So he'll be next. So once that timer's up, how would you like for me to move the candidate back in? As soon as the timer is up? You're on mute, Marianne.
So it looks like Nazanin, it's both is back in, so we'll go ahead and let, who do you want to put in next? Nicholas Stark?
Yeah, Nicholas.
Nicholas, are you there?
Yes.
Okay.
Do I have to close the room to bring somebody back in?
Oh, she's already back in.
Oh, I think I
Yeah.
can just join.
Can you?
You can choose.
Oh, I
Okay,
guess so.
there it is.
Now it doesn't give me an option to add Sheena in there.
So when he comes back in, you can click on her name and put assign to, I believe, and then assign her
Oh, in
to-
this upper part. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Let's go here. All right, Nicholas is back with us. So Sheena, are you ready? All right. Christina, can you bring all the APC members back into open session?
Yes, I'll do that
Close the
now.
breakout rooms, yeah.
It has that 60-second timer on there, so be back in shortly.
Hello, everyone.
Right.
Hello.
Okay. And Commissioner Sauce, can you continue the meeting? I'm on a screen that does not
Okay.
have.
Sure, sure, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to do it, and you just let me know when you want me to stop talking and you want to take over. We have interviewed 3 candidates for the Citizens Advisory Committee, Nazanin Shakirin, Nick Stark, and Sheena Patel. And so I would like to open it up to the committee for discussion and or nomination.
We
Mule.
do have one other candidate for consideration who's not here, Carlos Diaz.
Right. Mule?
Well, first of all, Renata, as you said, just really 3 great people. I think what we need for the CAC, given its history, is a strong leader, somebody who can help organize that group. It's a valuable group, but oftentimes people have different skill sets that are on there. So I would lean towards that. I think of the 3 that we looked at, I think Nazanin Shakirin is probably the most experienced by far, and knows how to really run and help guide that CAC. Staff struggles because of the various interest levels of the other members. I think she would do an outstanding job.
Now, just to be clear, Terry, and we've got 3, we can make 3 appointments today, right?
Yeah, we do have 3 open vacancies. We had the 5 applicants, 1 withdrew, 1 could not make it today, and then 3 interviewed today. But we do have 3 vacancies on the committee that are all at-large CCTA appointed seats.
Okay, Paul, and then, I'm sorry, Neil, go ahead.
Just to finish with, the only question I have, and I see Sheena's on here. Sheena works for one of our consultants. It concerns me to have an applicant that would be advising us, but yet works for somebody that we might hire, and we have hired a lot of the past. So I'm just a little concerned about that as kind of an inherent conflict. I'll just say that.
All right, thank you. Paul?
Yes, thank you. I think we had 3 high-quality candidates today, well-spoken and diverse. I have an administrative question. I'm a little ignorant of the full committee and its makeup, whether there's geographical aspects to it. I'm from West County. I was, the West County person dropped out. Is there a timeline we have to making these appointments? Do we need to leave this open to get 2 or 3 more interviews so that we have not just take all 3 of these, but we can have some essence of a choice?
Yeah, so we have 23 members on this committee. So we have,
Can we get a list?
it's a large committee. Yeah, so we've got a representative from each of the 19 jurisdictions, the county, and then we have the 3 at-large CCTA seats. So it is very diverse and it does represent the entire county. These seats have been, I actually tried to look for records prior to this, but I couldn't find any of what was the last time that they were actually filled. I've been here for almost 8 years and they've been vacant from my knowledge. Matt may have more information on that.
We don't have a list of the entire committee?
Oh, I do. Yeah, I do.
I'd love to see
These
that.
seats-
I just want to see what the
You want to see? Okay.
general makeup is. I mean, these three candidates are great, but I like Newell's comments are important. And just to see if it's fully representative of our county, that's all.
Yeah, it is. I mean, every single jurisdiction has a seat plus the county.
That's why it's 23.
Yeah,
Yes, each
well, and
city
just
will
knowing
make
what they
some
all
better.
do, because
Yeah.
the new candidates can plug some holes into what we may not have on the committee. Anyway,
Sue, I'm going to call on Amara first because she raised her hand, and when the lawyer raises her hand, I pay attention. So
Good
just to
call.
make sure that she's going to keep us on the straight and narrow here.
Well, I do appreciate Commissioner Arnrich's comment, but I think the risk of conflict of interest is low here. The Citizens Advisory Committee, as I understand it, is advisory. It's not like the APC, which is making, you know, affirmative recommendations one way or another to the full authority board. So I think the risk of an individual, and I'm now referring to Sheena, and I apologize about not having Sheena's last name firmly in my mind, but I think the risk of having someone like Sheena on as an at-large committee member posing a conflict of interest is fairly low. So I did want to acknowledge the concern, but also let you know, at least from my perspective, that I think the risk of conflict is low.
Thank you. Thank you for that. That's very helpful. Sue.
So I just, as Paul said, I don't know the makeup, but I do know the representative from Pleasant Hill. So I think it's a fairly diverse group. But what I really liked about all three of them was the diversity of the three. I think it's really important from a citizens advisory group that we have differing opinions, especially an age difference, right? The needs of retired folks versus those just in the workforce. And then, we have all three sort of represented in this group. And I think that's really important. I don't know the makeup of the rest of the group, but I think it's great to have that diversity in thinking about the future of transportation for our county. So I just want to make that comment. So I liked all three just in a package because of the diversity of the three.
Thank you, Sue. Lamar, did you want to say anything?
I just say, sorry, I'm outside. That they're all great candidates. Love them all, especially East County. I was enthusiastic about Nick. I think he comes with a great background, but also I think there's something to be said when you haven't been around for so long that you don't know everything. I think it's an advisory committee, and so we want everybody's perspective on these things. And so really enthusiastic about Nick. And so I'll just, if we need to make a motion, I'd be happy to make a motion for all three candidates.
Yeah, thank you, Lamar. And I just let me add, we have three highly qualified candidates who have terrific expertise in this area and have what I found to be an authentic, genuine interest and passion for the topic. So I am in favor of recommending the appointment of all three, because this committee is really important to us, and it is hard to get people to serve on the public or members of the public to serve on committees. So here we have this terrific opportunity, and I think we should say yes to all three. Okay, Terry Ann, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to provide a little bit more background on the appointments from all the jurisdictions. They do go through a formal recruitment process where they solicit for applications, and then they all interview with the city council, and the city council then selects a candidate to serve on the Citizens Advisory Committee. So I just wanted to give a little bit of background that the council does vet out all the applicants just as we're doing here, and pick somebody who ultimately can best represent their city for them. And then just to give you a little bit more background, the purpose of the CAC is to provide citizen perspective, participation, and involvement in authority policy development and implementation. And we ask that all of the members identify and educate themselves on transportation issues of regional, countywide, and local concern. So I just want to give you a little bit more background.
Thank you, Terrian. That's very helpful. Appreciate that. All right, Paul.
Yeah, I just wanted to concur with you, Renata, on what you said. I think these three are great. I love the spectrum. And if I could just get more information on the full list after we move this along, I'd like to monitor this into the future. It'd be very helpful because we need folks that care about bikes. We need people that care about transit. And just to make sure we have a broad spectrum would be very helpful. So thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. All right, before a motion, I'd like to take public comment. Is there any public comment on this?
So we did have a motion and a second. I seconded.
Did we did? I didn't
Yeah.
hear it.
Lamar made the motion. I made a second.
Oh, okay. I missed it. Sorry. Tim, did you want to say something?
It's a quick comment, but I just wanted to comment on the Citizens Advisory Committee just briefly. The current chair of the Citizens Advisory Committee, Jared Arsh, he has been doing a fantastic job leading the Citizens Advisory Committee. The work that they are doing currently relative to reviewing the growth management checklist for each of the cities, as well as the vision that he has for the actual advisory committee, is really fantastic. Funny, but I just had the opportunity to interview him as part of the podcast, and he'll actually be my next episode to talk about his vision for the Citizens Advisory Committee and the work that they're doing there. So, but Jared, I think, is doing a fantastic job leading that group, leading the committee, and I actually see a lot of value to the Citizens Advisory Committee, not just relative to a lot of the standard things they're doing relative to reviewing and improving the growth management checklist, but also, using them as an opportunity, using the CAC as an opportunity to get feedback and input on our countywide transportation plan, as well as any future initiatives as we're moving forward. And so also want to really put a shout out to Matt Kelly, our staff person that really manages that group. He's been doing a fantastic job as well. But it's been a great group. I've seen a lot of change in the last, I would say 6 to 8 months after Jared became the chair. And so it's really taking shape and really starting to add a lot of value to the authority.
Thank you,
Good
Tim.
news.
Thank you for that context. That's great. Okay. Christina, there's no public comment, I assume.
No, I've received no public comment.
Okay, so closing public comment. All right, we have a motion and a second on the table. Could we have a roll call?
Commissioner Arnrich,
Aye.
Commissioner Fideli,
Aye.
Commissioner Nowak,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sauce,
Yes.
and Chair Thorpe.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously with all members present.
All right, Lamar, are you, should I pass you the baton?
No, you can close this out, please.
Okay, hold on. All right. So the motion passed unanimously, so we're on to correspondence and communications. Anybody have anything to say? Okay, move on to commissioner and staff comments. Chair, Mr. Chair, do you have any comments or reports?
I do not.
Okay. Any commissioner comments or reports? Okay, and Tim or anyone on staff, any comments?
No comments from staff. Thank you.
All right, I don't think we have any other business, so I believe it is time to go into closed session for a conference with legal counsel to conduct the executive director's public employee performance evaluation and conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. So we will now convene into a breakout room. Christina, are we going to get a little button to press?
Yes, you will. I'm sending that out right now.
Okay, thank you.
Christine, are we allowed to leave now?
Yes, you can leave. Thank you so much for attending.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And we'll be in contact with you after the authority, makes the final decision, in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Nazi.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Yep, thank you very much.
Christina, did you pause the recording?
No, I didn't with the other one either. I can do that now though.
All right, we're back in open session. Wanted to let everyone know that the APC conducted a closed session to conduct performance evaluation and conference regarding the executive director. I'm hearing myself twice. And there is no reportable action from the closed session. So we are now adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Take care.
Donna.
Take care.
Nice job. Paul, send me that email.
I
do it.
will. I'm on it right now.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Christina. Thanks, Terry Ann.
You're welcome.